Today, we'll be diving into the best British boxer of all time. Well, at least according to Deontay Wilder. And that boxer is none other than Naseem Hamed. When asked to name the best British boxer of all time, the Bronze Bomber said that Naseem Hamed was the best. Wilder's reasoning seems to be more about the fun that the mysterious Nas brought to the sport than any specific things he did in the ring. But that doesn't mean he hasn't proven his worth when it comes to actual boxing. In fact, Hamed won the featherweight world title more than once. In 37 fights, he only lost once, to the great Mexican boxer Marco Antonio Barrera. He was the main act at shows in both the UK and the US, and no matter who he was up against, he always got a big crowd. Honestly, Prince Naseem was nothing less than a global superstar. He was arrogant, yes, and too sure of himself, but he always had the skills to back it up. The Hall of Famer had 31 knockouts, which is 84%. He changed the sport of boxing by showing how much showmanship and fighting skills matter. Many fighters, both domestic and foreign, have said that Hamed's legacy has influenced their boxing style or behavior outside the ring. It's important to understand that Wilder's also known for his own elaborate ring walks. So it makes sense why Wilder looked up to him. After all, Deontay himself has gone out of his way when it comes to showmanship. For instance, back when he had a fight with Fury, Wilder wore an elaborate and heavy costume to honor Black History Month. Later, he talked about how the outfit made his legs feel shot from the start of the fight, but the image mattered more to him back then, so he knew he had to just suck it up. Keep in mind that this outfit weighed 40 pounds. While talking to Yahoo Sports back then, he said his clothes were so heavy that he didn't have any legs when the fight started. Obviously, this could also just be an excuse to explain why he lost against Fury that day. But it honestly seems like boxers like him would go the extra mile to put on a show, even if it meant their game was being compromised. Maybe that's why he envies Nas, because he was always able to keep a proper balance between being fun and also keeping his head in the game. Deontay isn't the only one to admire Nas when it comes to this, though. In the charming and fun category, Spencer Oliver thinks Naseem Hamed stands out from the rest. Now, fans of boxing today look to Tyson Fury for humor and charisma, but Oliver thinks that Nas is the best showman this country has ever produced. According to Spencer, both Fury and Nas were entertainers outside the ring. They both stood out in their own ways. Oliver also said that if you look back at Nas's history and see how charismatic he was in interviews, like the build-up to fights and everything else, you'll realize that Nas was on a different level. He was a lightweight fighter who was knocking people out. And even though he was a showman, it's important to consider that he was a showman who always delivered. And that's something both Deontay and Spencer agree on. While we're on the topic of Deontay, it looks like there might be a potential fight between him and Anthony Joshua, and David Price thinks Anthony Joshua has a terrible trait that'll go against him in this fight. Yeah, he thinks it'll definitely make it easy for Deontay Wilder to beat Anthony. Both parties have talked about the possibility of a fight next year, but Price is sure that Joshua's perfectionism will get the best of him. Joshua and Wilder have been talking about fighting each other since they both became world champions in 2015 and 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we have a unanimous decision. Here are the score totals. Judge at ringside, Adelaide Bird, scores the bout 118 to 109. Jerry Roth sees the bout 119 to 108. And Craig Metcalf scores the bout 120 to 107, all in favor of the winner. And now the first American boxer to win the heavyweight title in nearly a decade, the new WBC heavyweight champion of the world, the Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder.
Oh, say, can you see Deontay Wilder is the WBC heavyweight champion? Naia, Dad kept his promise.
All right, Deontay, congratulations to you.
But they haven't fought yet. Now though, since both men recently lost their belts and are trying to get back on their feet, a fight between the two seems more likely than ever. Eddie Hearn, who works for AJ, sent Wilder's manager Shelley Finkel a big money offer to fight the Watford powerhouse back in October. Finkel wrote back and said he was still interested in the long-awaited showdown, even though Wilder had been busy getting ready for Robert Helenius. But the fight is unlikely to be the next one for either man. This is because Joshua is scheduled to fight Dylan White in March or April. On the other hand, Wilder's scheduled to fight Andy Ruiz Jr. in a WBC final eliminator, but it could happen at the end of 2023. And if that does happen, Price isn't sure that his former Team GB teammate will be the one with his hand raised. He's pointed to a terrible trait that he thinks sets the two fighters apart. He told ID Boxing that Deontay is less emotionally hurt than he used to be. After he beat Robert Helenius, he seemed to be back to normal. Joshua, on the other hand, is more of a thinker and puts more pressure on himself to do well. And this doesn't go in his favor if you consider the fights he's been in over the past couple years. In fact, even Deontay's trainer thinks Joshua will most probably lose. Now, Malik Scott thinks that even though Anthony Joshua is still one of the best heavyweights in the world, he could be knocked out early by the hard-hitting American. Joshua's lost 2 world titles in a row to Alexander Usyk.
To the scorecards, Glenn Feldman scores at 115-113 for AJ Anthony Joshua. Steve Gray scores at 115-113 for Alexander Usyk. And Victor Feschenko scores at 116-112 for the winner by split decision. And still the unified heavyweight champion of the world from Ukraine, Alexander Usyk.
With the weight of a nation on.
And Wilder lost his belts to Tyson Fury before winning them back recently. So it's interesting to see why fans still want to see the 2 heavyweights fight. When they were both champions in 2018, their fight would have been one of the biggest in history, even though neither of them is champion now. Both casual and diehard fans are still interested in seeing it. Scott, on the other hand, thinks that Joshua will lose to Wilder's God-given power, just like he's lost to every opponent he's faced other than Fury over the years. People say that the main focus is on AJ, but Scott doesn't think that's true. It's important for Deontay to be in the biggest fights of his career, especially in the second half of his career. If AJ wants to fight, Scott says they're always up for it. If he doesn't, they'll move on to better fights. On Joshua's side of things, though, his promoter's been warning him about what would happen if he loses a match at this point. Oh, and it's not good news, because Eddie Hearn thinks that Joshua's career will essentially be over. The 33-year-old heavyweight is expected to make his comeback in April. Dempsey McKean and Otto Wallen are among the fighters who could fight him. While Hearn talked about Joshua's return plan, he said that this is the most excited he's been about Anthony Joshua's journey so far. He thinks that when Anthony goes into that fight in April, he has to make sure he wins, or else it really will be all over for him, because this would be his 3rd loss in a row. And yet, a great performance and a knockout showreel could also get everyone thinking that their favorite boxer is back. Hearn says he really can't wait for that to get to the point where the fights begin. This is because he says he likes it when they're in a tough spot. As of right now, the Deontay fight is a possibility, but Hearn thinks that a fight with Dillian Whyte would make the most sense right now, and it should be relatively easy to set up. That's it for Deontay Wilder talking about the best British boxer of all time, in his opinion. See you in the next one.